Welcome to winter in Britain. Um, yeah, looking amazing. Funnily enough, I sprayed this bike down a couple of days ago, and practically all of this is from a nice day out that I did yesterday. And it's not like I was green laning or anything. This is just like a mixture of grit and salt that they spray on the roads every night to improve adhesion and inhibit ice formation. And you can actually see there's salt crystals there, and it just gets everywhere. It's all over the bike, absolutely coated in it. It's going to need another spray down. Wonderful. And then when I spray it down, of course, that's going to blast all the oil off the chains. That's going to need redoing. But I'm not here to complain about winter in Britain again. What I'm actually here to do is to go for a little ride and have a little chat. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to set it into eco mode. And we're going to turn Google back up. Here we go. Eco mode, and yeah, away we go. Why are we in eco mode? Well, we are going from Coventry, which is where we are now, to a nearby town called Hinckley, and I forget how far away it is, so let's just reset that and we'll find out. Google said something there, I have no idea what it was. Hopefully I've not put my phone in the wrong way up. Yeah, we're going to Hinckley, and the reason why we're going to Hinckley in eco mode, even though as you can see I've got 86% battery. Okay, I can hear Google. Is that Google says turn left? I'm not sure that's correct, but okay. It's because a friend of mine who lives in Hinckley said that he might get a little cheap electric motorcycle to commute to work in Coventry. And since then, the job that he was looking at has said that no, it's a 100% remote position, so he doesn't need that. But it got me thinking about, little bikes. It's a class of vehicle that I don't really think about very much because when I think about motorbikes, I generally think about big bikes like this, leisure bikes as it were, that you can use for utilitarian purposes, but it's not really the focus of the motorcycle. Google is not really giving me any commands here. Okay. It keeps fading out. What? Hold on. I might need to stop and mess around with that for a second. I think it said take the first exit. Oh god, there's another roundabout. Good. Third exit, okay. It keeps starting to talk and then just tailing off. What? Oh, I can't be having that. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna get lost because Coventry is a nightmare to navigate. What was I talking about? I was talking about a little left, okay. I was talking about little bikes. Yeah, I don't really think about them very much. And yeah, maybe that's kind of an oversight on my part. But yeah, we were looking at like a little TC Max, like a Super Soco, and like seeing what second-hand ones were about, how much they cost and all that kind of thing, and what the specs were. And it's a really interesting little bike, and for this kind of journey, this is kind of like the extreme of what it might be capable of. Just because it's got, I mean, it's only got a 2.7 kilowatt hour battery, but the fact that it is a viable option is very interesting in my mind. And just because it's not something that I would ever consider, because if I'm getting a motorbike, I'm getting a motorbike that I can go out and have fun on. Thus, the Rebel. But that's not what everyone is looking for. And there is actually quite a big market for those little motorbikes. And in many ways, there are things you can do with them that you can't do with big bikes like this in terms of construction and the ways that you manage charging. For instance, if you ask me about battery swap, I'd say battery swap is a terrible idea and it's not going to work, because people tried it with cars. In front of us there are two French cars from PSA. PSA put a lot of money into battery swapping and then decided what was that, Google? Yeah, PSA paid a lot of money into it and then decided that it was a terrible idea. I'm gonna have to pull over for a second and continue this thought after a cut. Yeah, here. Oh. Alright, I don't know what's going on with Google. Yeah, PSA put a lot of money into battery swap technology and then it didn't work out. Also, Google's taking me the wrong way. Oh, cool. Great. You can't just make a video in it, There always seems to be something. But it didn't work out for cars, and it's certainly not going to work out for like leisure motorcycles. But for little bikes like the TC Max or like scoots and stuff, it certainly does work out, because they only have tiny little batteries anyway. Although the TC Max's battery is 20 kilos. If you look at the way that some battery swapping is being done, there's kind of like 3 batteries, so 20 over 3 is like 6 and a bit kilos. That's not too bad. You're not going to put your back out with that. But the format doesn't really work for full-sized sort of leisure bikes. And I think that there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with that. Those little bikes tend to be really focused on charging at home as well. So the TC Max, it has an external charger. It doesn't have like any of the standard charge port stuff, which I think is kind of an oversight. Like, I think if my friend had ended up doing what he had looked into, I don't know which end of Coventry the job he was looking at would have been on, but if it was the far end, I think he would have ended up needing to charge at work, which would mean bringing the charger with him and potentially having to carry the battery inside and plug it in. And that's getting into a bit much of a faff to deal with. Whereas, you know, if it had a standard Type 2 socket on it, you could just use a regular charger. But, you know, maybe some of that is just the fact that, you know, in some ways the electric market is still a little bit in flux. There are still competing opinions on what is the right way to do stuff. But the thing is, that little bike, it's alright. I mean, it's no scorcher, like it's going to top out at about 60 miles an hour. Which incidentally is faster than eco mode on this bike. But it doesn't have the power this bike has. However, it's really light. Like, you know, if you get stuck in a parking space, like someone parks behind you or whatever, you could just pick it up and turn it around. It's amazingly light. And good luck doing that with something like this. And what that means is, like, a little battery pack and not a lot of power go a long way, just because it is quite light. This better not be taking me to the motorway. What Google's saying. Don't know why it's fading like that. I'm gonna assume that where I want to go is straight ahead. But yeah, I think those little bikes are worth taking a look at, for sure. I don't think it's a good idea to dismiss them, and certainly it shouldn't be dismissive of them in global terms, because whilst here in the West, like the vast majority of motorcycles are leisure vehicles, right? And there's a lot of scoots you'll see around. People use them, but it's not a common commuting solution. Now, in some parts of Europe, it certainly is. Italy, certainly. We're going for the B4065. That's where I'm going to aim, and we'll see if I was right. Yeah, certain parts of Europe, they certainly are. And in a lot of Asia, and I assume also Africa, like, little bikes are the way people get around. I don't like to lean on my Indian experience again, but those are all like little 100cc air-cooled singles. They're absolutely super simple, and it's not like electricity is uncommon in India. Like, you look at the place and, like, Yeah, okay. Even the shanties like have satellite dishes on the roof. You know, tin shack, satellite dish. But it's also worth noting, very importantly. Oh, I was picking the wrong one. Shit. It's also worth noting that, like, a lot of people in India just live in apartments and houses, like regular people here. And they have utilities just like here, and they have garages and driveways and parking garages just like here. And there's nothing stopping them having the ability to have an electric bike and plug it in. And in those sticks, like those little motorbikes, stuff like the TC Max, stuff like all the new scoots and things, they are actually really, really, really significant globally. And it's very easy to lose sight of that if you simply focus on people like me who are mainly just interested in leisure bikes. And they have a big role to play in just getting people around. And the thing is, like here in the UK, I think the start of this video is a pretty good illustration of why motorbikes are not more popular for getting around. Because my bike is absolutely filthy, and it's cold, and my fingers are cold, and who knows, looking at the sky, at any moment I could get rained on. No one likes getting rained on. But getting like British people out of their cars and onto motorbikes, that's not gonna happen, right? That's a bit fanciful. Getting British people out of their cars and onto buses might be somewhat of an easier proposition than getting them onto motorbikes. And that's especially true because in Britain, motorbikes are viewed in one of two ways, right? Either it's a big bike like this, in which case it's a recreational thing, it's a toy, it's a thing that you just have to enjoy, and it's not a real way of getting around. Or it's a little scoot or a tiny little bike, and it's just like a toy. Ha ha ha, look at that guy, he can't afford a car, right? Which is wildly unfair, I think. But that is certainly an attitude that people do have. You know, there's the old Thatcher quote about anyone who's like 25 and riding the bus is a failure. And it's such utter bullshit, but people here really buy into it. So over here, like, I think there is certainly like a market for those kind of vehicles, and there is a big market for them, like especially the scooters. But it's nothing like their significance elsewhere. Certainly as you go further south in Europe, their significance increases, and then as you go east, like into Asia, like scoots and particularly small capacity motorcycles are everything. Here is where me being in eco mode is significant, because that's about it. I mean, this bike could go well faster than that if I wasn't in eco mode. But I've just chosen to put it in eco mode because this is vaguely the route that my friend would be following. Like, he wouldn't be taking the M69. Nice. Because you're not going to do that on a little bike. Which isn't to say that I wouldn't take the motorway and just set this thing to cruise control at 60 and just be happy with it, but I have been motorcycling for a decade and a half, and I have built up the nerves required to do such a thing. And even then, like, it wouldn't be particularly comfortable. But you can do this. And yeah, this, well, I mean, to me anyway, this feels kind of slow. But if this was just your way to work, yeah, you could just do this. There'd be more traffic, I guess, if you were traveling. I mean, this is a Sunday in the evening. There'd be more traffic if this was like peak commuting time. But you wouldn't really be holding people up that much, to be honest. You know, if you were courteous and you stuck into the side of the road, people would be able to pass you, and that's fine. You do need to have the balls to just be in the middle of the road normally, and just be like, oh, there's someone behind me. I'll move over and I'll just let them pass, and then you pull out. But, you know, my friend who, like, spurred this whole thought experiment, he drives a car, so as much as a motorcycle is a slightly different experience driving a car, it's not like he's a stranger to, like, road behavior. And I think that, I mean, if we were young and you just got it as your only way to get around, then you'd build up that confidence pretty quickly, I think. Although one thing about the TC Max is it doesn't have regen, which is kind of an oversight, I guess. I don't know. I guess it probably makes it cheaper. There's less power electronics involved. Oh, skirt doggle. Let's go this way. Really don't know what's going on with Google's instructions today. That's terrible. But yeah, if you want to get a little motorbike and your motivation is just like, well, I just want to get to work, yeah, it's an option. You're gonna go online and be on YouTube, and it's gonna be all like our lads on GS's talking about motorcycle stuff that is wholly irrelevant to your experience. I think there's just not really that much of an audience for little bike stuff. But don't let that put you off. Like a scoot is perfect acceptable way to get to work, and a tiny not. I don't know how well that comes out of camera, but those were some piercing headlights. Yeah, it's a perfect acceptable way to get to work. There's a really good motorbike gear shop just in that little business park. Don't let it put you off. There are good ways to get around. A friend of mine used to have a little petrol scoot, and it was a raggedy thing with like duct tape holding it together in places. But like it got him around. This was in university years ago. It got him around, and like he had a laugh. I rode at the back of it once. That was hilarious. And he never went on to get like big bikes. I think he got a car in the end. But that doesn't matter because it's not really a pipeline towards getting you a big bike. At the end of the day, like it's a way for you to get around. And unfortunately, if you are looking at like the small bike, the big bike pipeline, you're not very well catered for when it comes to electrics, really. Oh yeah, this is not the way that I want to go. This is a different way. This is the way to go past Hinkley. We'll get there. We'll turn right up here. But, you know, a little detour isn't a terrible thing on this little fact-finding mission, because a little bit of extra distance, you know, got that margin. But yeah, Google said continue straight. Let's assume Google means go around this way. So, yeah, if you are looking at, like, you know, the usual, like, 125, A1 to A2 to full A progression, or maybe like you're doing a CBT plus direct access or something like that, you're not very well catered for. And the primary reason that you're not very well catered for is just money. The same reason that practically no one has bought one of these things. You know, it costs 26 grand, and like if you want to get a 125 equivalent, you're looking at like a maybe 0FX, whatever it is. That's, I think, 12 or 13 grand. They're just expensive little bikes. And then what you get, unfortunately, like at that level, that people say that, you know, the mid-size motorcycle is the impossible to meet criteria for electric, but that's wrong, right? It's the 125 equivalent, because what you will get for your 12 or 13 grand will in no way compare to what you will get for like 5 or 6 grand on a 125. Especially because who buys a 125 new, you know? The answer to that question is couriers, incidentally. But like learner riders do not buy 125s new. I didn't buy my 125 new. I bought it second hand for 3 grand. It would have been 6k new. But it had about 4 times the range of like one of those little zeros. And that's kind of where they really fall down. They just, you cannot get a battery that's big enough into those little bikes. The packaging just does not work out. And that sucks. Honestly, it sucks. But what it means is you just need to learn on a petrol. Now, if you want to, what you could do is get a CVT and ride around in a TC Max or something for a while. It's not going to be all that amazing, but you'll get the basics. Do your test having taken a lot of lessons on a petrol bike with a shop, or maybe if you can find a shop that has some small electrics, you could do that. But then you're gonna have to wait before you can get an electric relay. So that is definitely an area where I think electrics have a lot of work to do. But in terms of like the little bikes, like the sub 125 category, sub 125's electric is absolutely rocking it. Around the 125 category, 125s, 250s, that kind of equivalent of bike. Just there doesn't seem to be anyone who's figured that out yet. And then once you get up to big bikes, like you've got stuff like the Energica, the Zero SRF and SRS, the Livewire, and like they're all good bikes. I might occasionally talk trash about them, but they're all good bikes. But they're also very expensive bikes. They're definitely for people who can pay for it. But ignore small electric bikes at your peril, because when it comes to actual real adoption and doing serious numbers, they are where it's at. Like, the electric bike market is still a small, like a really small fraction of the overall electric market, or the overall motorcycle market here in Britain, at least. But whereas there were 126 35 kilowatt plus motorcycles sold in the UK last year for electrics, there were something like 4,000 electric scooters. So yeah, I mean, that's where the action is. And we're going to be seeing more and more of them, especially because fleet sales are really, really going towards electric. There are actual motorcycle fleets in the UK, not just like police and ambulance, but like places like Domino's and other like pizza delivery places. They tend to have little fleets of scoots, and as those fleets come up for replacement, what's happening is they're getting replaced with electrics. And here I am. I'm in Hinckley. This is obviously not my friend's house. It's the middle of Hinckley, and there's no one here because it's Sunday, and it's like, what, 4:30 or something. The sun has just gone down. Which sounds depressing, but at the height of winter, around the 21st of December, it would have gone down at around 4 o'clock. So, that's depressing. Anyway, press all of the buttons and smash that comment, like the bell, etc. Donate to my coffee.